evening, everybody. My name is Jose Lopez, and I'm going to deliver a speech that was delivered by Martin Luther King, August 28, 1963, and at the Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C., which is, the speech is, I Have a Dream. I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to the end, the long night of their captivity. 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation in the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lies on an only island of poverty in the midst of vast oceans of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republics wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution in the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to forbear. This note was to promise that all men, yes, black men, as well as white men, will be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on his promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vault of opportunity of this nation. And so we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hollow spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is not time to engage on the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drugs of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to raise from the dark and desolated valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lead our nation from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This southern summer of the Negroes' legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an integrating autumn of freedom and inequality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. In those who hope that the Negroes needed to blow off steam, it will now be content will have to rude awakening if the nation returns to the business as usual. And there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until it is granted its citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake foundations of our nation until the bright day justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people. We stand up on that warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to generate into a physical violence. Again and again, we must raise up to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to the destruction of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evident by their presence here today, have to come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging into the motels of the highways and the hotels of the city. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by a signed state for whites only. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No. We are not satisfied, and will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not mindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells, and some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom led you battered by the storms of persecutions and staggers the wind of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow these situations can and will be changed. Let us not swallow the valley of despair and say you today, my friends. And so, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. I have a dream deeply rooted in American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the great hills of Georgia, the son farmers slaves and the son of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live out in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the contents of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream today that one day down in Alabama, with these vicious races, with this governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, and the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that all go back to the south with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountains of despair and stone of hope. With this faith, I will be able to transform that juggling discord of our nation into the beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we'll be free one day. And this will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country is of thee, sweet of land of liberty. Of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims' pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so, let freedom ring from the prestigious hilltop of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening allegiance of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the carpetous slope of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from the stone mountains of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountains of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up the day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jewish and Gentile, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, thanks God Almighty, we are free at last.